Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. You are listening to We Know You Know, a podcast about Psych. And today we're going to be talking about season 3, episode 4. If you guys are enjoying the show, please remember to like and subscribe. We are your hosts, Matthew and Barb.
Hi.
If you guys are enjoying the show, please remember to like, subscribe, and as always, share it with your friends. Let people know about us. Get it out there.
And we're going to give our shout out to the official Psych Fanatics of Facebook group and the Psych subreddit group. So many of our listeners are in these groups. We're so glad you're here with us, and keep telling your friends about it. Matt, I think we have some fan interaction this week. What do you have?
Yeah, we have a couple. The first one here is a comment on our YouTube channel from Michael again. He left this one on Daredevils, so the last episode we posted. And his message is, I'm stuck between a 2 or 3 pineapple rating for this episode. Without the screaming during the fire suit testing and or the touching moment with Dutch at the end, this would definitely be a 2 pineapple episode. Gus riding in on the moped was funny too. Overall, not a very memorable episode, but it had a few good moments. I probably lean towards 2 pineapples. Also, I wanted to say that it always makes my day when my comments get read on the show, but I hope you don't feel any obligation to read them. No, Michael. Well, we appreciate you messaging in and being
Yes, we
a loyal
do.
listener. We do love hearing from our listeners, and it's we definitely like to give you guys shout outs whenever you guys message in.
I always like to, he pointed out some of our favorite moments from that episode.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was
Those were
like
the
we're on
2
the
key
same
elements. I
page.
think he nailed it. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Michael, I think is on the ball. Like we said last time, he points out a lot of sometimes stuff we miss, and this time he pointed out the 2 exact things that we loved most about the episode.
Yes, that moment with the fire in the little pool. I can't. That was a great
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah,
scream. The
I
scream was
watched it a couple
perfect.
times. It was
Yeah.
such I used it as the thumbnail also for the
Yeah.
post on the
I
social
saw
media.
that.
Just especially seeing Sean scream like that, because normally it's just Gus. Seeing Sean scream like that too.
It was really good. It was really good. And we always
Mhm.
we always love your mail. So thanks. Keep writing in, okay?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Barb, is there another one in there?
Yes, we have one from D Scully. Says, "Hey guys, just finished listening to this week's show and great job as always. I actually started laughing along with you when you were cracking up. Your laughter was very contagious. Thinking about season 3, there are some pretty dark episodes. Daredevils, Earth, Wind, and Wait for It, and Tuesday the 17th are what comes to mind. The episodes themselves are pretty normal, but there are certain scenes that are darker than the usual murders. In my opinion, Dutch trying to kill himself, for example. The other episodes, I won't go into detail so as not to spoil anything for first-time watchers, but keep it in mind when you rewatch them. Things just seemed a little more gruesome to me. Also, Matthew, Dutch's plan may have worked if he had succeeded in blowing himself up, as there wouldn't be much left to autopsy. He'll always be Frank Lapidus off of Lost to me. True story. Yeah.
True story.
Y'all take care in all that snowy weather. And sorry, Barb, I wasn't a fan of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but I really hate Pretty in Pink. What? Most of any John Hughes movie that I've seen. Until next time, Mary from Florida. Mary. Okay, and she says, P.S. I think that was an Airwolf windbreaker in Sean's stuff, not Blue Thunder. You know what? You're probably right there. I think I might have gotten the two confused. I wasn't a fan of
Yeah,
either
in the back
show.
of the truck, it was Airwolf.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Anyway, I'm so okay. Okay, first, let's break this down to a couple things. First of all, thank you for listening, and we're so glad that we can make you laugh a little bit about this show. It makes us crack up, obviously. So, the part about Pretty in Pink. And I don't know why that's what my brain is going to, because I know you did address season 3 and talking about how it got a little gruesome. Now, I wonder if part of that was due to the fact that as we've gotten more into the episodes, James Roday Rodriguez had a little bit more to do with some things, and he loves horror. He loves that whole genre. So I'm wondering if that maybe had anything to do with the little bit darker themes and a little bit more gruesome sort of horror type things in this season. But I don't know. That's something to think about. But also, I will go back again to this whole Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Pretty in Pink. Those are both excellent movies. And what you've done now, Mary, is you've made me ask Matthew if he did his homework from last week and watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
And I did. Me and the wife watched it, and
Okay, what did you think? Anyone? Anyone?
I got the
Matthew?
references.
Matthew?
Um, and I now understand better the reference at the end of Deadpool, the after credit scene. It's literally the shot for shot scene at the end where if you watch through all the credits of Ferris Bueller's and he comes out in the robe, he's like, "Are you still here? It's
Uh-huh.
over. Go home." Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I got that now.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Um,
I need to know your feelings about this movie.
so I try to think about this as if it came out, if I saw it when it came out versus now, because a lot of this stuff has now been done over and copied and that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So I try to think about it as like the originator of several of these
Mhm.
interesting, I don't know, perspectives or like cinematography, how they did it. And I totally see how it was a super popular movie. I totally get that.
I don't like where this
And
is going.
I get, well, I'm just trying to
Go
give
ahead.
perspective.
Mhm.
So I see how it was super popular, and I did enjoy watching it. However, I there was some things that I did have some concerns with where it got a little too much. It went a little too far sometimes, and
Like where? What are you talking about? Like give me one example.
well, the teacher, um, like I
You're talking
just
about the principal?
yes, I don't remember his name, but the guy that was essentially like stalking this kid.
Mhm.
I feel like he went too far several times,
Yeah,
and
like
I
breaking in
don't
the
know. It just seemed a little
like breaking in the
unrealistic.
house.
Yeah, and then not just, like, going home after a while, like, how important is this to you that I did like the, um, fourth wall breaks. I thought they did a really good job with that and integrating in with him talking to the audience,
That
and
was the first time we had really seen a lot of that.
yeah, and I'm definitely trying to I think that would have been really cool to see with it being the first time something like that happened. I also like how they portrayed Ferris. It had a very real vibe to it, which is kind of it tends to be a theme with John Hughes movies, is like all the characters are very grounded and they sometimes say dumb stuff but they always like react in a relatively natural way. Even if it's almost, I guess, embarrassing to a point, but it's very realistic. They're not trying to always, like, be super cool,
And all
which is
sorts of people were
interesting.
represented in John Hughes movies. Like it didn't matter like what kind of clique you were part of.
I don't like that they didn't tell us what happened to Cameron with his dad. They kinda left you hanging
That was
there.
the point, is that he finally was like, I don't care. That was the whole point of it. It was like he just was finally like he needed to get to the point where he's like, I don't care.
I guess. The other big issue that I had with it was, I don't like the thing where they just, like, pretend like all parents are, like, naive. Um, there were several points in that movie where I was like, "Are his parents completely talked? Like, are they, like, really? You couldn't tell that that was a mannequin arm in the bed? Or, like, I don't know. I get what they're going for, but there is sometimes when it went a little bit too far.
All right.
So, but it was an enjoyable movie. Um,
Would you
it
ever
wasn't
okay, now
perfection. It wasn't perfection, and anybody who's
okay.
like, "It's the best movie in the world," you're wrong.
All right. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I would
Mhm.
say for me, The Breakfast Club is like movie perfection.
Breakfast Club's awesome.
That is like one of the best. It's easily top 5 best movies ever made.
Mhm. It's good. It's good.
Ferris
I wanna
Bueller, I
rewatch it
don't
again.
think I would put up there, but what you have to like for me, all of those John Hughes movies were it was like a generation like of comedy
Mhm.
and of like teen angst and like what teens were going through and stuff. And I always loved how you always saw in his movies like you saw the nerdy people, you saw the people who were like popular and you like all of those little like groups were in them.
Yeah.
And it didn't just always focus on just popular people. There was like other I don't know. I don't know. And his movies always just left you feeling good. I love the John Hughes movies. I'm glad
Yeah,
you
I
watched
liked
it.
it. I liked it. I'm not I don't, like, hate it or I have anything super bad to say about it.
Would
I
you ever
thought it
watch
was
it
a
again?
decent movie. I don't know if I'd watch it again.
Like, if it
I
was just
get it.
on, you
I
wouldn't
just
turn
don't
it
know if it
off?
was entertaining enough to wanna watch again.
Alright, how many pineapples would you give it?
I mean, I don't know if the
Based on our
pineapple
pineapple
system really
rating system.
goes over there. I don't know if it really transfers well, but I'd probably give it, like, a 2, like, 2 or a 3. Definitely not
Okay,
more than a
3
3.
3
It's
I can
not,
live
like, my
with that,
favorite.
but
I can
2
see
is
how it
yeah.
was interesting and how it would've been really cool, and maybe if I was younger and, back in the day, I would've thought it was, like, super cool, but seeing it now.
And so I just imagine, like, if you had been 12 and it was, like, Ferris Bueller had come out, and that was, like, you have to look at it in the time too. So, like, in
Mhm.
for its time, I think that you can appreciate that though. Like, for its time, it was
Sure. Yeah.
cool for its time, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm very proud of you for watching it.
Yep.
Yay.
I wanna watch some other ones too. I wanna rewatch
Okay.
a couple of those older ones.
You have or haven't seen 16 Candles?
I have,
You
but
have,
it's
okay.
been a while. I would like to rewatch them.
Okay, and you have or haven't seen Pretty in Pink?
Have not.
Okay. Have you seen anything like, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles or, like,
Nope.
any okay. Alright,
I
well, you
also wanna
need to pull
watch
up
The Princess Bride. That's another one I heard was, like, really
Yes.
good, so I need to
I'll be
watch that one
honest with
too.
you, I've never watched that either.
Oh, see?
Yeah,
It's
maybe
supposed to be
that's our
really good.
assignment. We need to both watch Princess Bride.
Mhm. Maybe,
Okay.
yeah.
Alright, so next time, I'm sorry we sort of went off on a on a but it's relevant to what we're doing because they reference these things a lot, so okay.
Yeah, watching these, especially the John Hughes movies, I think helps with, understanding some of these references, so yep.
Absolutely. So, okay, so Mary, thank you for writing in, and maybe you guys will have something to say about Matthew's thoughts on Ferris Bueller
Oh
next
god, here it
time.
comes,
We'll
here
see.
it comes.
The floodgates are open.
Although, now that Mary's with me too, so, yeah.
Well,
I
you
thought it was
know,
entertaining enough to watch the whole thing, but it's not something I'd really wanna watch again.
okay. Anyway, that was great. I'm so glad you watched it.
Now, getting into this week's episode, we are gonna be watching episode 4, The Greatest Adventure in the History of Basic Cable.
I
It's
love the
directed by
title.
Steve Franks and Josh Bicel. Actually, sorry. The episode aired August 8th, 2008. And, Barb, who is in charge of this episode?
So this episode was written by Steve Franks and Josh Bicel. We already know about Steve Franks, but Josh Bicel co-wrote on 3 other episodes of Psych, one of which was something about Mira. Another one was In Down the Stretch Comes Murder. So we've already had his writing in several episodes.
If I
One of which,
recall, those aren't hot episodes for us.
no, I think we both like Down the Stretch Comes Murder, but
3
I don't,
pineapples and 2 pineapples for something about Mira,
yeah, 2 was from me. It's lucky I
and
got
Down the
2.
Stretch Comes Murder was 3 pineapples each.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
it wasn't bad.
Eh,
Not our favorites, but yeah.
yeah, we'll see how this one, rates by comparison. He also wrote on other comedy shows like Veronica's Closet, Scrubs, and The Big Show Show. I don't really know what that one is, but anyway, he wrote on some other comedies. The director of this episode was Jay, and I really hope I don't butcher his last name, Jay Chandrasekhar, and he directed 4 episodes of Psych. And also some of our favorite shows like Chuck, I loved Lipstick Jungle. I know you never watched it, wouldn't even know what it was, but I loved it. Warehouse 13, Community, Royal Pains, New Girl, The Goldbergs, and Fresh Off the Boat. So he has done a lot of comedy directing and a little bit into that drama area. But anyway, we'll see on this episode how this comes out. I'm kind of excited for Steven Weber being in this episode. And I love the title of it. So, Matthew, what is the synopsis of this week's show?
Well, actually, the now that I think about it, the Big Show is
Uh-huh.
about the wrestler Big Show, and it's a TV show on Netflix about like him with his family. It's like a sitcom type thing.
Oh,
But
it's not
what's
like a
important?
reality.
No, it's a
Okay.
sitcom about like him and living with his daughters and stuff.
Huh,
Um,
okay.
but I remember now why that's familiar to me because Big Show is also a guest star in later seasons, as in one of my favorite episodes, Lassie Jerky. So yeah, he's a guest star in there. He actually has some really funny parts in there too.
That's an awesome
That's why the
episode.
Big Show pops up in Psych for me, because that's where it's from.
Okay. Okay, cool.
But back to business here.
Give us the synopsis.
The synopsis for this week. Sean's treasure hunting uncle comes to town after finding out Sean is a psychic and comes to them with an offer they can't refuse.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Now, again, on this episode, I know that we kind of are a little bit worried about it because of Beisel and like our
Mhm.
opinions of his last few ones that he's done. But this one does have a good guest star.
Mhm.
And I think if I recall, the banter between them is very interesting, and I think it adds to it. So regardless of whatever the story is, um, I think the guest star adds to it.
Yeah, Steven Weber's awesome. I mean,
Mhm.
he did
Very
so.
charismatic.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I mean, anyone who's ever watched Wings, have you ever seen that show, Matt?
No, see, I feel like it's
Ugh.
before my time.
Well, it was 90s, but yeah, very, very, he is very charismatic. So I'm excited to see him in this episode. I haven't watched this episode in a while, so
All right, let's get
let's
into it.
start it.
All right, so we are 30 seconds in, and there's already some intrigue here. So Sean, Gus, and Henry are all inside of the interrogation room at the police department. Sean's dad tells him not to say a word, and Sean says "fergulous" to really just irritate his dad, saying that it wasn't a word when we were playing Scrabble, but now it's a word. Definitely Sean.
Gus just looks irritated and angry. Sean is like, whatever. And Henry is just mad. And I don't know. It's very, very true to their personality types, but all just sitting there next to each other.
So we're getting some more background. So something has happened.
So,
Gus lost the $200 shoe.
that was
And
great.
Henry though is actually kind of getting defensive here. He tells him like when they come in to interrogate us, don't tell them anything more than what they already know. Don't give them anything. And Sean's like, what about Uncle Jack? What do we say about him? Henry was confident in his abilities to undermine the interrogation because, to his knowledge, he didn't break any laws. But he's finding out now that Sean and Gus might have, and he is very irritated at this. So the chief, Lassie, and Jules come into the interrogation room, and they're serious. They're saying they're going to get to the bottom of this no matter what. And then they ask him, "Where's the gold?" Which gives us essentially the start of our episode here. And Sean tells them that they have to go back 20 years to answer that question.
And we also find out that Sean and Gus impersonated priests at some point.
Hmm. And this rolls in at 2 minutes into our young Sean moment. We see a guy in the front of the class telling a story with a name tag that says Sean's dad on it, and we know it's not Sean's dad. So it's like a career day thing, and Sean has a fake person playing his dad. This is also our guest star for the episode, Steve Weber.
And now we see in the back of him out the window Henry's squad car pulling up. The presentation that Steven Weber has given has been about hunting treasure.
And Henry walks in
Oh.
expecting to give a presentation for career day.
We find out that this is really Henry's brother Jack that has the name tag on, and that Sean must have kinda cooked this whole thing up with his Uncle Jack to pretend to be his dad for
And
this presentation, and that has to okay, as a parent, I'm just gonna tell you, if my kid did that, it would be so hurtful, and I'm
as not
feeling
a
bad for
parent,
Henry.
it's hurtful. Yeah.
Oh, that just hurts me for him.
And he actually has an interesting job too.
Yeah.
Sure, it's not treasure hunter, but, it
Okay, but
he's also not an accountant.
to this point, though, even as young as Sean is, he's probably been exposed to so much "Here's how to be a cop" that he didn't wanna hear any more of it.
Yeah, that's true. Henry, was hurt by this, and while being hurt, he made the choice to try and burst the bubble of the kids in the class, pointed out that he's not actually a treasure hunter, Uncle Jack is not, and that it's not real gold that he, brought in as during his presentation. But Jack, in his charismatic way, and that charisma does play a role in the story,
Mhm.
this episode, is able to spin it by pointing out that it's not real gold, but it is real chocolate coins. And he throws them up into the air, and all the kids go nuts, which was a great scene. I actually think that was a really cool way to end that scene with him like winning them
Yeah,
back like that.
and
Because
if
I
you
could
notice
imagine if I was a kid and they threw that, I'd been freaking out. Like, what? This is crazy.
well, and also if you notice, like, it Henry coming in had sort of completely sucked the wind out of Sean's sail, like, he was very like, all the other kids are gonna know now that I lied about this," and it's like, it's like a whole thing. He
Mhm.
was feeling pretty bad, and the chocolate just changed it all.
Yep. All right, so we're back in the
Present day.
retelling in present day though, and Sean, Henry, and Gus are walking back home after seeing a movie, and they see somebody with a flashlight in the house. And Henry pulls a stun gun out of the birdhouse, which is so Henry, and him and Sean make their way into the house.
Someone is in the house with a flashlight, though. They're
and
just
Sh-
gonna
and Gus is out front in his
mm.
karate stance.
And Sean is going in with an oar.
Or actually, not too bad of a weapon.
No, could be pretty powerful.
Although sees on the kitchen table a single penny, and he knows what this is. He's seen this
He
before.
Yeah, he knows who it is.
And we walk in
Uh-huh.
on Jack, like, going into, one of the drawers on the coffee table.
And Sean is clearly just still, like, enamored with the whole idea of his uncle. He just is so happy to see him.
Yep. But apparently Jack leaves pennies everywhere.
Gus comes Gus comes in with the hose.
Screaming.
What's he gonna do with the garden hose? Come on.
Everybody seems to have a good relationship with Jack.
Except Henry.
Mhm. Jack's got lots of stories.
Well, Henry just feels like Jack's just full of crap.
Yeah. And he feels like he's the only person who sees it too.
Yeah.
Jack is one of those guys who seems almost like a con artist. He's got a story for everything.
Uh-huh.
He brings artifacts, quote unquote, for the guys that are, from Pier 1.
And it says Aeropuerto on the sticker on the bottom. He, like, buys these things in the airport. He tells them that he wants them to help him find Bouchard's treasure. Bouchard's treasure is what he was talking about in the classroom in the flashback.
And Henry reminds everybody that it's a myth. But the difference here is that he has proof that it's real.
He has the treasure map, and clearly Sean and Gus are intrigued. So we're at the police station now after the theme song has played.
So to explain the jumping around this episode, the episode takes place in current time in the interrogation room with Lassiter, the chief, and Jules trying to figure out what happened like 10 hours ago. And
Mhm.
we're seeing the retelling from Henry, Gus, and Sean's point of view.
Right.
So that's why it keeps jumping around. So so hopefully you can understand that throughout this episode.
Yeah, because we're already 8 minutes, 15 seconds in, and we just saw the theme song play. So It's a little bit different format this episode.
Yep.
Look how he's looking through the glass.
There's a little bit here where everybody's on the other side of the two-way mirror and Sean's standing next to it. And it looks like he's pretending to see them, but when they actually move, he moves with them. And it's messing with everybody's head, including the chief.
Well, especially Lassie, though. Lassie's like, how's he doing that?
But you expect that. You don't expect the chief.
Right. Or even Jules. The look on her face is pretty like, how's he doing it?
Now, one thing that we also get added here is that there is somebody from the Treasury, like the federal government, or find out what happened to Bouchard's treasure.
So Uncle Jack has brought them up to speed, and he
On the
clearly has
math.
been trying to put together stuff. I mean, like, he has a lot of stuff, journals and maps and all sorts of things about this ship that went up and down the coast. And
Well, based on historical events, he's tracked the path that the gold took, supposedly, and knows where it should be. And he knows it's definitely somewhere here in Santa Barbara. So he's just trying to narrow that down.
now we're on a scene of Henry in the kitchen, and okay. This always throws me. He's got a bowl of ice. Who puts their ice in a bowl before they put it in the cups? I'm confused by that.
It's nice to see Gus excited about
Yeah.
the case.
And they agree, by the way, like, to do it. They're, like, excited about it.
So this is one of those situations where uh, Sean pretending to be a psychic actually does come into play with like I don't know, I guess the real world. His uncle is now under the impression that he is a psychic. He heard about it, and that's the reason he's here
Mhm.
because he could use a psychic on the case.
He wants to harness the powers of Sean.
And Sean hasn't told him. I don't know if he's going to. I don't think he will. I don't think he does, if I recall. But he has to figure out how to handle that. Sean does.
Mhm. In this scene, we're about 11 minutes in. In this scene, this is where you find out why Sean feels the way he does about his uncle. Because he's like, I don't know if psychic is what I'd call it. And he's like, no, 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 no. I've always told you you're gonna be great. Like, don't sell yourself short. Don't. And so it's a lot different than what he gets from Henry.
That's where that silver-tongued devil comes into play here.
Right.
He has the right thing to say. He's very manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems harmless now. Like there's times when it seems like he could be doing it just to be nice.
But there's
But
always
yeah.
an underlying reason. You can tell that about him. I'm surprised that Sean can't really tell that about him. As observant as he is, you know?
He also Jack also says that if we can get the psychic in and solve this, they can split the treasure 50-50. And I love that Gus points out here that they're going to donate most of the treasure to a museum.
Mhm.
I love this like shit-eating grin on Sean's face. Another thing we see is that Jack has this tendency to it's something he picked up from his family, but he leaves pennies all over the place to spread luck. So to catch people up here, we're at the 13-minute mark, and the guys have made their way to a museum, and they are pretending to be like a priest and a
Dignitaries.
dignitary to get into a room where Jack believes that there is a clue in like some painting or art piece to the treasure. Some clue somewhere that leads to the treasure. And part of the reason that they have to do this is because there's a piece of the map that's missing, and it happens to be the first step. Sean analyzes the map and gets a clue. Color. This leads to a French painting. The clue in the painting leads them to a lighthouse, which is number 152, which matches up with the number that Jack brought up.
So apparently some guys who are really bad shots.
Might have been stormtroopers in their past life.
Yeah, they were also at the lighthouse when they got there, so, that's kinda where they were halted a little bit.
Yeah, who we found out were some of Jack's other partners. Jack has a lot of partners that he's, agreed to split the treasure 50-50 with, and, these ones are not too happy. So as soon as they arrived at the lighthouse, they were chased away with,
Guns.
by angry people with guns.
They've apparently been in there for a while. We're 16 minutes, 43 seconds in. Jules is she is feeling everyone's frustration at this point. Sean has just given them a whole thing about what food he wants to eat and that he's hungry and whatever. Well, Jules is not having it anymore. She like slams her hand on the table. She's like, "Look, I'm probably the only one here. It's been hours. I'm probably the only one here that cares whether you get out of the trouble that you're in. You're in a lot of trouble. Tell us what we want to hear." And it was kind of sweet. And Sean was like, "I was so hot." It was cute that there was a flirtatious moment. I always like this.
So we're at about 17 minutes in, and following up from the people chasing them out of the lighthouse, apparently they caught up to them, and they have them tied up in a cabin. And we find out that these people were in fact partners of Jack's,
More
and
partners.
Jack seems to keep making partners. He tells this guy that Sean and Gus were just going to get a finder's fee, which is it's painting a picture of the type of businessman Jack is and the way that he kind of does things. Making problems, sweet talking in his way out, disappearing. It seems to be his gambit.
He's a con man.
Yeah,
He's not concerned about what happens to the people along the way. He's just concerned about what he gets out of it.
and you're starting to understand Henry's stance on it more and more. So these former associates, we find out, are looking for the map. Apparently, Jack took it from them. He's threatening to essentially torture Jack until he gives it to him, and Sean tells him where it is to prevent Jack from getting beat up. This is where the skeptic of me is going to say, "You didn't search his backpack to begin with," but we'll try and look past that. They weren't too happy to find that the map was missing a piece either. So Sean is able to convince the guys that the map starts at some location, some island, to try and waste their time and get them out of the picture. But they leave them tied up in this cabin, and they find out that Gus has a work phone with a leg holster like hidden on his person, and he doesn't want to use it because it's work minutes. Meanwhile, they're being held captive. Wow, this leg hold. This is an old cell phone. This right here dates the whole episode. It has buttons. Oh, pineapple sighting.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
All right, so
22.
22 minutes, 47 seconds in. We are listening to Sean trying to call his dad while being tied up in the cabin, and we get a look at Henry's house at the voicemail he's leaving.
It's an answering
And
machine message, Matt.
yeah,
This is pre-voicemail. This is called an answering machine.
right. Well, we can hear Sean leaving his message, and we see the house, and it has been ransacked.
Yeah.
There is everything is off of everything, pulled out of every drawer. It's a huge mess, and among the mess, we do see what looks like a one of those pineapple cups, just like a little plastic pineapple on the table. So we end up at the house at Henry's house. Um, Apparently, Henry has come and got them and freed them, and they're looking through to see if anything's missing from Henry's house, like what the people might have come there for.
And now we see that Jack is like mad at Sean for giving the map. He's
Mhm.
like angry with him. Sean's not used to feeling that from him.
Sean has one of his psychic
Mhm.
episodes in Henry's house and finds a key hidden under the coffee table, a key that Jack left there.
Can we just make a note about how every time Steven Weber says Argentina, he says Argen Argentina,
Argentina.
Argentina.
Jack explains that the key is used in tandem with the map, and if Sean can make a new copy, if he can remember all the details of the map like he says he can, then they should be back on track. And then he excuses himself to go to the restroom.
And I have a feeling he's gonna leave.
Yeah, I think that bathroom's gonna be vacant.
Uh-huh.
Although, no, he shouldn't be, because he's not gonna be able to remember the map. They need
I
Sean at
don't
this
know.
point.
I think he's gonna look up. Oh, no.
Oh, nope,
Okay,
see?
I'm wrong, I'm
He
wrong,
didn't
I'm
run.
wrong. So now Henry's in.
Only because he doesn't want them breaking any laws. Sean is using his memory of the map as well as clues from the key to figure out what the next step is gonna be, and they all head out towards wherever that is.
And they are in Henry's truck, all 4 of them, which is funny.
And they're
And they
being
have people
followed.
following them. The people from the treasury is what I'm assuming, but
Yeah, they look federal.
or maybe they're just trying to look federal. Who knows? At least Henry's shirt is sort of normal, but the way that Sean is walking through the town with his arms out to the side and he's like his legs, the way he's walking is just funny. So he's taken them to what is now a muffler shop, but it used to be a bell tower.
So 28 minutes and 40 seconds. We find out a little bit more about Uncle Jack and his fascination with the pennies. He collects them and leaves them in places.
Yeah, leaves them for good luck.
And explains that it's his way of being a part of history. He collects them and then he leaves them in places to give people good luck. And Lord knows the world could use more good luck. That's it's Sean. Her Gus is like, are you for real? It is kind of like a douchey thing to say. Like,
Mhm. So Sean puts a few pieces together on the map, and then they notice that the guys who had tied them up in the cabin have once again found them. We are 30 minutes, 37 seconds in. They have arrived at the bluff that is like the part on the map where Sean knows that the treasure has been left. They get to the edge of this bluff. They've got the guys who captured them before following them. Uh, Gus has lost a shoe in the mud, and they get to this bluff and realize that there's now a helicopter that looks pretty daunting facing them. And Jack is nowhere to be
armed,
seen.
armed helicopter.
Yeah, armed helicopter and no Jack. Where's Jack? Jack's gone.
So we're back at the interrogation room, and we find out that it's not federal government; it's for the Spanish government. There's a team sent looking for Bouchard's treasure, and they're the ones that were in the helicopter and the ones working with the police department to get more information from the guys.
And I just put 2 and 2 together. If there's anybody who watched 90210 when it was originally on, this guy playing Andres was Andrea Zuckerman's husband on 90210. It just hit me. I was like, I know him, I know him, I know him, and that's where he's from. So they find out that the clues on the map are they need to lead them to caves. Painted caves. So, like, the
And
clues were color and cueva, and those sits like painted caves.
there are apparently a bunch of caves nearby where people would go to like drink and hang out like high
Mhm.
schoolers would. So
Right.
they have their next lead in the case, and we also find out a little bit more that the guy from the Spanish government has permission from the Treasury to investigate the Bouchard's treasure and like reacquire it if they find it. But the chief is fighting him because they're dealing with their team with Sean and Gus. So
Mhm.
which
So
is
the
cool,
chief
some
wants the
camaraderie.
detectives to be able to go.
So we're at about 32 minutes in, and Sean and Gus are in a cave with the Spanish government, and they are digging, and they find a chest, and they uncover it, they pull it out and open it up, and they find a legitimate bag of coins and the Mexican government guys are very excited. And when they try to get the coins from Sean and Gus, Sean says that he knows they don't work for the Spanish government. And he, knocks over and distracts a bunch of the guys, and then Sean and Gus take off. As the skeptic here, there's no way that would have gone down like that. But looking past it, they're running through the woods trying to get away from them. They've got the bag with with all the coins. And while they're running away from the Spanish government guys, they run into the other team of hunters that hate Jack. So now they have both teams chasing them, trying to get the gold. And they get to a clearing where Jack peels out of the woods in a car. He says he's been tracking them. He's excited that they found the treasure, and he is going to take it from them to separate them from the treasure, since the guys only want the treasure, the people chasing them.
Why would he not just let them come with him and they could all escape?
Yeah. Yep. I agree. It definitely is it's definitely
Mhm.
sketch.
And you can
But
see
Jack
Sean sees it.
says, yeah,
Sean
Sean
sees
definitely
it.
is
He's hurt.
skeptical, but Jack says that he will
Don't
meet up with them shortly
at
at
Red
the
Robin.
Red Robin.
Never gonna be there.
Well, everybody else comes out of the clearing now. They've all got their guns out, pointed at each other. Half these people aren't even properly gripping the guns. Then out of nowhere, Lassie and Jules come in with some backup with some patrol cars behind them
And how
to
did they
save the
find them,
day.
though? I don't know how they found them.
Actually, they explain that. I remember.
Oh, okay, okay.
So after everybody's in handcuffs, Gus is just as confused as you are. He's like, "What just happened here?" So Sean does his wrap up. So the first thing that Sean noticed that kind of set this ending situation up is that the guys that were claiming to be from the Spanish government didn't have a Spanish accent; they had an Argentinian accent, which led Sean to think that they were former partners of Jack. And this is actually the first time. Actually, no. Yeah, we've never actually seen Jack and these guys in the same room, so there's
Right.
no way for them to have known that. So that tracks.
Skillet. Big baby Burton.
When Sean got this information, he secretly passed Jules a message whenever he left the interrogation room, telling him that Andreas, the Spanish government guy, is not who he says he is. So I'm assuming that's when Juliet started, essentially tracking where Sean and them were and why they were able to pull up like that. 39 minutes in, and we are with Sean and apparently Henry at the Red Robin, where they are supposed to be waiting for Jack.
And Henry knows that Sean's gonna be disappointed.
So Sean and Henry have a little bit of a talk, and Sean has realized that Jack is not going to show up, and he just used them to find the treasure and then bailed. And he has a moment of reflection where he realizes, like, I get why you were so skeptical of Jack, and he really isn't the person I should have been looking up to as a kid. Henry's telling Sean that he can't believe Jack actually got away with the gold, and then Sean pulls out a
Uh-huh.
handful of doubloons. They apparently pulled a switcheroo here. So apparently, while they were running through the forest, Sean made a switch with the bag, and he ended up giving Jack a bag full of rocks.
Oh.
And he left him a penny in the bag of rocks.
Uh-huh.
And that concludes this week's episode. Now, I gotta say, with this ending, I kind of forgot this was the ending that was there. I am very surprised we didn't get another episode with Uncle Jack. That would have been a
Yeah.
cool episode to return to with like some new adventure or something that maybe Jack is
Well,
behind.
and maybe they just never could get Steven Weber to do it. I mean, who knows?
Maybe. It'd be an interesting thing to look up
Uh-huh.
at. But yeah. That's the unfortunate thing is they get these cool people to play these family members, and aside from like Gus's parents, and even then Gus's dad was swapped out later on. Um, we don't get to see them again. It would be cool if we got a little bit more of like his family being even like season regulars, as far as like
Right.
once every season or so, we get to see them again.
Well,
It'd be cool
even
if they could
his
do that.
mom, even Sean's mom only did like 8 episodes out of the whole series. It seems
Really?
like more, yeah. When
Yeah, it
I looked
definitely
up
feels
Sybil
like more.
Shepherd, it was like it was I don't know. Here, I'm gonna
Yeah, I guess
verify
that's
that
true,
really
and I guess
quick.
they're pretty well spread out and also integral to the story. Some of the ones that we
Yes.
see later on with like Yin is she comes back into play, and yeah, I guess they just got her in like a lot of good episodes.
Yeah, I mean, I just think her presence, I think, was a little bit more just like knowing she was there, not necessarily that she would be seen.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we've got her in Ghosts, Murder, Anyone, Bueller, An Evening with Mr. Yang, Yang 3 in 2D, and Juliet Takes a Lover. And that's it. So really only 5 episodes.
Hmm.
I mean, you would have thought that she would have been in more of them looking back at the series, right? But she was not.
Yeah, I guess so. Hmm.
Didn't bring back a lot of other family members. I don't know. I don't know why, but
Oh no, I just seen that just now where it ends with him being like nice play, Shawnee boy, Shawnee boy.
uh-huh.
It
Oh,
seems
it
like it would have been a
definitely
cool
was
thing.
left open
It seems like it
for
would have been a
more.
cool thing for them to come back to in another like a different season. It's
Well,
like
but you
round 2, almost like what they do with Despero. That would have been cool. And I just liked his character too. He was just charismatic and he was a bit of a snake, but he was still an interesting character.
yeah. Well, even Juliet's family is different from one episode to another because doesn't
Yeah, they drastically
um
changed her family's backstory
yeah.
once they got Shatner in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And her brother being played by John Cena in one episode, like or
Super bummed
2.
about that. Well, he came back in the movie
I was
too.
gonna say 2 really, but one of them was the movie. So,
Mhm.
yeah, very weird. This very weird. And I
Yeah.
don't love that storyline, but I do think that they could have done more with this. Or at least had him show up to the Red Robin with the bag of rocks or something. I
Mhm.
don't know, I guess I feel like they could have ended this episode differently. I it
Ooh, a
was
cool way for them to do it was what if maybe, he was trying to con somebody and he got caught, and then Shawn and Gus had to, like, save him, and that could have been a cool
Oh,
way to do it.
yes.
Yeah, that could have been interesting. But,
Yeah.
missed opportunities.
Hmm.
Actually, what if the next movie I don't know, that could be cool. It'd be cool to get some
Clearly
old players in there.
okay,
That'd be
clearly they
awesome.
need us talking to them about this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we definitely need to be
I feel
involved
like
in the
we have a
writers'
lot
room.
of good ideas that we should be pitching.
Mhm.
I don't know.
You know, the hookup. It's all about who you know. We gotta get in the
That's
room.
right.
Gotta get in the room.
We need to call Sage. All right, my general thoughts. I think this was an okay episode. We got a couple of funny moments, a couple of flirtatious moments between Sean and Jules. There's that whole trust with them, him leaving the note for her to follow them, that sort of thing. We did get some character development from Henry and Sean in this episode too. Like just I don't know, maybe Sean learning to trust Henry a little bit. I honestly kind of think that that's why Sean really wanted Henry to come with them because I think that I think he knew that he would need the realness of his dad. I think that's why he was so excited that Henry was coming. I'll be honest with you that I don't love this episode. I like the guest star, but I didn't like his character. My pineapple rating for this one is going to be 3. I liked the character development. I liked the guest star. I didn't love the storyline. I don't like when they make Sean come off as naive.
Well, I think that it gets a little bit of leeway here since it has to do with his childhood.
Yeah, it's
He got a little bit of a vertigo of, like, who he was whenever he was, like, he has this impression of his uncle, and he kinda just reverts back to that when he sees him, and he gets that, like, childlike wonder, and, I think that could be excusable because of that. So you're going with 3? 3
I'm going
pineapples?
with 3. Yeah, 3 is it.
I actually think I've gotta go 2.
Oh,
Um,
wow. I see, I knew I was being a little generous, but
there were a couple things that I just didn't think would happen that kinda threw me off a little bit.
was it a little obvious for you, like, when the guy in the suit was in the interrogation room there? Like, It was sort of obvious to me that something was off there. It's almost like they just didn't make it realistic enough.
Well, maybe it was because they were jumping around so much, but it also felt very short. And to the degree of him seeing the family, it kind of that part kind of falls short for me on this episode because ultimately I know it doesn't matter. Like we never see any of them again. Ultimately, if you miss this episode, it's not going to matter. So like though we get some of this backstory with his uncle, we never hear about his uncle again. And that kind of lessens it a little bit for me
Yeah.
because I had issues with the actual case. Like, the actual case I thought had some holes in it,
Okay.
and, some stuff just didn't quite make sense. I love the guest star. I wish we could have seen him again.
Yeah, I'll give
Aside
you
from
that.
that, though, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go 2 pineapples on it. I thought I remembered liking it more than this, but aside from 1 or 2 funny jokes, there really
Mhm.
wasn't too much going on, like, there wasn't too many great bits. I don't even think there was a
No.
nickname. I think Lassie got a nickname.
Yeah, it wasn't really like a, "Hi, I'm Sean, and this is my."
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna agree with you. 2 is less generous than me.
I'm just being realistic. It's just,
Okay, an yeah moment. Um, no, I do have a wait for it moment, though. Okay, my wait for it moment, I guess, is also my "come on, son" moment. Because when they're standing outside of the car after they've found the treasure, and he's got the bag, and Jack is telling them, "Give me the bag, but you guys stay here." And
mhm.
then the "come on, son" is like, "Seriously? You're gonna just like, you're separating them? You're not gonna just take them with you and get out of there? All you care about's the money, you awful, awful person." So it's kind of both moments for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just really don't have, like, any of these moments this episode. Nothing had really any real weight to it. Like, there wasn't any moments that I was, like, really, like, curious about what's gonna happen this. If I have to give something, then maybe a come on son moment is when Gus gets both of his shoes stuck in mud. He loses both his Pumas, like, I guess that's one. It was a funny moment, but it doesn't really have any real weight to me. So, like, I would really say that I really don't have any notable points this episode. It just didn't nothing really like, hooked into me.
Okay.
Henry lessons. He had something at the end about karma, about, like, you'd expect it to catch up with him, and then, Sean showed him that he had the coins and he didn't get away with it, but that's not even really like a
Yeah.
lesson, it's more of just a thing. So, yeah, not much in this one. Silly nicknames,
Mhm.
not really. There really wasn't any favorite quotes that stuck out to me that are in my head.
We had a pineapple sighting, so
We
that's
did get the
good.
pineapple. Yep, we did get that. So that was cool.
I did think it's funny how throughout the whole episode, he called it Argentina instead of Argentina.
Mhm. It
Kinda
fit the
funny.
character. It fit the character. It definitely seemed realistic for the
Yeah.
character I liked,
A little
so.
flair he gave it or something, I don't know.
Alright, Barb, it's your time. What do we got for
Alright.
pop culture references this episode?
Actually, not too many. There are 10. Number 1 was a reference to Frank, Dean, Sammy, and Joey Bishop. This is a Rat Pack reference. There was a group of people called the Rat Pack, started off in the 60s. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and Joey Bishop were all members of this little Rat Pack. And they were a group of crooners. They performed a lot in Atlantic City, Vegas, that sort of thing. Goodfellas was the next reference. That was a 1990 hit movie directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta, and Lorraine Bracco. Really, really big movie. So many people have that as their like favorite movie of all time. Reference number 3 is Val Kilmer. He's referenced a lot on Psych. He guest starred in the very last episode, and he's an 80s, 90s movie star from Top Gun, Real Genius, and many, many others. Puma Sneakers. Puma is an athletic wear company. It was founded in 1948 and it reached its heights in the 80s. It's still being sold now, but it's not as popular now. Now it's sort of looked at like an off brand. It's not necessarily like a real high end brand. Jack Lord is referenced. It's an actor director. He played Steve McGarrett in the original Hawaii Five-O, not the one that you see now. Harry Belafonte is referenced. He's a singer and actor, like from the 50s till now. Like he's sort of still doing some stuff now, but he's known for like a lot of American Standard type of song hits. Secret of Nim was an animated movie from 1982 that was voiced by like Will Wheaton did a character, Shannon Doherty did a character. So a couple of the really popular like 80s stars did voices. Dom DeLuise, some different people like that played roles in that animated film. Secret of My Success was a 1987 Michael J. Fox hit movie about a young man wanting to be successful in business. And Red Robin is also referenced again. I feel like we've done this reference a few times, but it is a restaurant, casual dining, gourmet burgers and beer, originated in 1940 in Seattle. And Foot Locker, which is a sneaker store, still exists in malls everywhere. It's been popular for as long as I can remember. Like I can remember being a teenager and people going to Foot Locker all the time. That's all I got. Hopefully I didn't miss any. I think I got them all.
And lastly, how does this episode hold up over time? What do you think?
Okay, so I think a lot about this would be different now. I think a lot of this stuff would be done online in terms of researching things.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I don't
Yeah.
think this episode holds up at all simply because of
No.
the internet.
Yeah, it's
This
it's
whole thing would fall
totally
apart
right.
with the internet.
And also the phone. It played such a big part in this episode, the dialing of the phone.
Mhm.
And I don't know,
Hey
there's
Siri.
exactly. I don't feel like this episode held up well over time because of the no, I mean, granted, don't get me wrong. If you're looking for some sort of treasure map, that's not necessarily going to exist on the internet, but so much of the other research
But if you
would
have a
be
treasure
there.
map and you take a picture of it, then you don't need the actual map anymore.
Right.
Like,
Right. There's just a
or if you need
lot.
to look up, you don't have to sneak into a museum to look at a painting. You can just Google the painting.
Mhm.
Like this whole episode would have been done, and like Jack would never have come into town.
Which makes you wonder how are there still treasure hunters out there looking for this kind of stuff? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know how much treasure out there hasn't been found yet,
I don't know. I don't
and if it
know.
hasn't been found, it's probably for a very good reason.
Uh-huh. I feel like I almost wanna, like, take a pineapple away, but the more we talk about it, I mean, I might have to land on 2 for this one. I think I'm gonna change my pineapple rating to 2 because the more we talk about it, the less I like it. I'm upset that I don't like it. I was looking forward to rewatching it because I was looking forward to Steven Weber, and I'm just kinda disappointed, so
Yeah, honestly, he was the best part of the whole episode.
yeah.
Like his guest star, his character, like was the best part. I really wish that they would have used him again in the future. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. If you guys have any like questions or theories, or if you agree or disagree with anything that we thought about this episode in particular, just because we didn't really like it that much,
Mhm.
specifically if you love this episode, why do you love it? Let us know. Send us a message, a post
Mhm.
on the channel,
Please
or
let
a
us
post
know.
on the chat about it.
We would love to hear
Um,
something positive about this episode.
yeah, yeah. If we miss something, are we just overlooking like a really great part of this episode? So
I don't know.
on next week's episode, we are going to be discussing season 3, episode 5. Disco didn't die; it was murdered.
If I'm
And
remembering correctly, there's a lot of funny in this one.
yeah, I really actually I think that this one was actually really good. If
Okay.
I'm recalling properly.
Okay. This is good. This is good. Okay. Remember in the meantime to check out our Facebook group and subreddit in the links that you will find below. And
And if you did have any comments, email us. You just hit us up on Gmail, the psychpodcast@gmail.com.
until next time, have an awesome week.
See ya.